it's an issue now, whether our society has a coherent definition of the good life, or whether instead it's just about, as somebody said recently, the managed pursuit of pleasure. Is that really what we're about? Is our new model of what has made us what we are, which is essentially the neo-Darwinian model, something that imposes certain norms upon us, certain expectations, which make ethics rather marginal or even a little bit problematic, extraneous? If we are just the consequence of a billion years of the selfish gene, how do you fit ethics into the human composite when selfishness is essentially what has made us what we are? Natural selection. The weak go to the war, and it's the survival of the fittest in a completely merciless and blind watchmaker's model of what made us the complex entities that we are. That's a problem for the secular mind, and some ingenious solutions have been proposed following Kant and the successors of Kant, trying to provide some kind of constant anchorage for the moral life in the absence of, first of all, Christianity, and then other religions start to feel the chill winds of a secular, scientific, materialist explanation of the human condition as well. But this is important because perhaps the largest single misunderstanding, and hence the largest single intercultural standoff in today's world, is between Westerners who think that they have the correct universals, the Universal Code of Human Rights, the rights of the child, the Geneva Convention, all kinds of impressive statements of what we take to be universal that have emerged on the back of Enlightenment, secular ethical reasoning, pitched against usually Muslim, but not always, but usually Muslim radicals or conservatives or traditionalists who say, actually, those are your universals, but they're not ours. How can you say that these are universal? Do you have a metaphysical anchorage so that you can definitely say that the genders are equal, for instance, or that gay people should have the right to marry? What is the philosophical basis for your ethics? You used to have it when you were Christians, but now we're not quite so sure. And the big culture wars that are taking place within the Muslim world, and also between the Muslim world and the Western world, and sometimes between Muslim communities, say in the UK, who have the desire for things like Sharia courts, and the chattering classes, the liberal establishment, who are anxious about the existence of separate non-liberal modules within a liberal secular democracy. This is a really important conversation, and the reason why it's so stubborn is that each side finds it hard to perceive the other as truly ethical. The West looks like the managed pursuit of pleasure, which is not something that Muslims find particularly inspirational. Whereas the Islamic world looks like puritanical Oliver Cromwell come again, the Taliban, the hijab, the niqab, all kinds of stuff that seems repellent. And despite being in an age of mass communication and a global village, nobody's really talking in a way that the other side can really hear. It's a dialogue of the deaf. Is that how it has to be? Muslims believe values are legislated by God as instantiated in the person of the Holy Prophet, and Westerners are just having a party, and there can't be a communication. It's not as simple as that. Unfortunately, we don't need to be that pessimistic. Because although it's hard to demonstrate in a solid way the real existence of moral universals outside a theistic context, still you can speak of things that are substantively shared. So the idea that murder is wrong is probably shared in all cultures. The idea that coveting your neighbour's wife is wrong is probably shared in all cultures. The idea that you should protect your children is probably shared in all cultures. So we're not talking about two completely different planetary systems talking past each other. We're talking about two different ways of recognizing what is ethical. The Muslim world is struggling to perceive the West as truly ethical, and the Western world is struggling to see why Muslims should be seen as ethical. Muslims are arguing amongst themselves as to exactly how Muslim ethics should be present, particularly in the public or the political spheres. It's one long argument, but it's not really a dialogue of the deaf, because there are certain things that we do tend to agree on. And critically, the basic virtues which the Holy Prophet exemplifies are virtues which by and large are universal, are perceived to be such in the great majority of human cultures. Everybody respects courage, everybody respects sacrifice, everybody respects compassion, everybody respects justice, everybody respects challenging tyranny. Those are public virtues, almost secular virtues in a certain sense, that everybody can get along with. And from the point of view of kalam, of Muslim theology, that's kind of a necessary thing to believe. Because after all, if unbelievers were not able, through some congenital defect, to perceive right from wrong, and to perceive the existence of virtue in a saint or a prophet, there would be no logical reason why they should be expected to convert to a revelation once it comes. A revelation is a set of claims, and therefore must presume some moral awareness, some awareness of the good life in those that it seeks to convert. There isn't an absolute gulf between believer and unbeliever, insider and outsider. It's more a series of gradations.